1993, a film directed by Steven Spielberg came out and changed the film industry forever. In a better world, that film would have been Schindler's List. But no, I'm talking about Jurassic Park, a blockbuster thrill ride of a film with awe-inspiring visuals, a cool concept, and iconic characters and dialogue. In many ways, Jurassic Park is a perfect film. It's a film that mixes science fiction, thriller, horror, adventure, action, and even moments of comedy together to create what's essentially a roller coaster in film form. Let's not ignore the special effects either. Perhaps the standout feature of the film are the animatronic and CGI dinosaurs, many of which were devised for the very first time in this film. We wouldn't have the big blockbuster action flicks of today without the ingenuity, technology, and creative minds of this film. Jurassic Park is iconic. The direction from Spielberg, the score from John Williams, the iconography of the logo, the sounds of the T-Rex, the dialogue of Jeff Goldblum, as well as his chest. This is a near perfect film, and here are 10 cool facts you might not have known about it. Jurassic Park was primarily filmed on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. Don't know about the pronunciation. 3 weeks into the production, Hurricane Iniki hit and, well, it caused a bit of a disruption. There were winds of 120 miles per hour. Power across the island went out and the sets were impacted too. Producer Kathleen Kennedy got a ride to Honolulu via a Salvation Army plane just to get to a working phone. There, she arranged for the crew to get transportation back to LA. She also arranged for $20,000 of release to be sent to Kauai. Once everyone was safe and secure back in LA, production then resumed. Although not everyone was concerned about the hurricane as some were. Steven Spielberg grabbed director of photography Dean Cundey and went out and filmed the hurricane. That footage ended up in the film too, towards the back end when a hurricane hits Jurassic Park. When the hurricane first hit, the cast and crew assembled in the ballroom of the hotel, nervous, panicked, scared and excited. The legendary Sir Richard Attenborough, however, slept all the way through it. When later asked about how that was possible, he replied, "My dear boy, I survived the Blitz." The famous roar of the Tyrannosaurus Rex was a composite of a dog, a penguin, a tiger's snarl, an alligator's gurgle, and a baby elephant squealing. Gary Rydstrom has said that during the recording of the sounds, they only captured the elephant squeal once. The handlers claimed that, "We never heard it do that before. That's a weird sound." Rydstrom has added that, "I think maybe other directors would have had a shock moment where you see the T-Rex show up out of the blue. Spielberg was great in the T-Rex scene by getting several minutes of tension because you knew what was coming, and you knew it because you heard it before you saw it. It's nice when movies think about sound that way." Spielberg instructed Rydstrom to make the dinosaurs sound like animals. Real, but big and deep. The Dilophosaurus was a mix of a swan call and a hawk, along with some rattlesnake and a howler monkey. Raptors were dolphins, a walrus, and a goose. For the T-Rex, Spielberg requested it sound like the roar of one of his most influential films, King Kong. Prior to making Jurassic Park, Spielberg was hard at work on the early pre-production of another Michael Crichton work, ER. Somewhere along the way, he heard about Jurassic Park being written. He then dumped ER to make that film instead. He did, however, return to ER and help develop it into the hit TV series it became, and Spielberg continued to be heavily involved in that show throughout its 15-season run. But he was forced to oversee post-production on Jurassic Park via a link because he was also filming Schindler's List in Poland. He rented out 2 satellite channels through Polish TV to do this, and he always kept them open. It cost him $1.5 million per week. He has since described this as one of the hardest times of his life, as it took a huge emotional toll on him, and his enthusiasm for the film began to wane. It took him an hour a day just to muster up the enthusiasm to work on Jurassic Park, and he grew tired of answering trivial questions about special effects. While this might have been a tough time for Spielberg, the result was that in a space of a year, we got one of the greatest blockbuster movies ever, one of the greatest dramatic movies ever, and one of the greatest TV shows ever. That's a big bragging point. As a gift, Spielberg gave each member of the cast a model raptor signed by him. It was said to be quite frightening too. Ariana Richards put it in her house to shock anyone who walked in. Jeff Goldblum gave the model a prime spot in his home and treats it like a cherished object, while Laura Dern gave it to her son, putting it by his crib. It wasn't until he was older when he started to grow scared of it though, at which point she had it moved into storage. The animatronic T-Rex weighed about 12,000 pounds and was extremely powerful and dangerous, so much so that the crew had to hold regular safety meetings about it. They used flashing lights to announce when it was about to turn on to alert nearby crew it could move. If you stood next to the head when it moved in full speed, it was said to be like getting hit by a bus. To add to the issues, it kept malfunctioning, mainly due to the rain. Producer Kathleen Kennedy has said, "It went into the heebie-jeebies sometimes. It scared the crap out of us. We'd be like eating lunch and all of a sudden a T-Rex would come alive. At first we didn't know what was happening, and then we realised it was the rain. You'd hear people start screaming." Michael Crichton wrote the novel Jurassic Park and released it in 1990. The concept was so admired by Hollywood that studios were bidding to get the rights to it before it was even published. Steven Spielberg wasn't always destined to direct Jurassic Park. James Cameron really wanted to make the film, and he went to make a bid on it too, but he was late by just a few hours. He has said that his version would have been much more violent, which would have been fair to the children watching. He had a cast in mind too. Charlton Heston as Hammond, Bill Paxton as Malcolm, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Grant. That would have been interesting. Warner Bros. Were in the running too, and they wanted Tim Burton to have a go at directing it. Columbia wanted Richard Donner, and 20th Century Fox considered Joe Dante to direct. The only reason Spielberg won out was because he was already working on the previously mentioned ER adaptation along with Michael Crichton. So he knew about Jurassic Park before anyone else, and thus was able to put a bid in before anyone else. Ariana Richards has said that her favourite scene in the film was the iconic kitchen sequence. It was filmed in just 2 weeks with animatronic and prosthetic raptors and a man in an odd raptor suit. That man could only do it for up to 15 minutes at a time because they were always bent over in a downhill skiing position. And speaking as someone with a bad back, that's physically tough. Meanwhile, the raptor clicking his toenails was done by a puppeteer walking on raptor legs. We've already addressed who James Cameron wanted in the key roles. Spielberg, however, also had different actors in mind. Clint Eastwood and Marlon Brando were considered as Hammond, and they eventually offered it to Sean Connery, but he said no. Spielberg saw many parallels between himself and the character of John Hammond, so much so that he cast himself as the voice of the animated character seen earlier in the film. Fittingly, he cast another legendary filmmaker and actor in the role of Hammond, Sir Richard Attenborough, his first acting role since The Human Factor 14 years earlier. A decade before Jurassic Park, the two filmmakers had had their films compete for Best Picture and Best Director at the Academy Awards. It was Gandhi vs E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Richard Attenborough won both, but he has since said that E.T. was more deserving and he called it a quite extraordinary piece of cinema. Despite being called Jurassic Park, the iconic logo features a dinosaur from the late Cretaceous period, not the Jurassic period. On top of that, the dinosaurs only have about 15 minutes of screen time in the film, 9 of which are shown via animatronics and 6 of which are CGI, created by Industrial Light and Magic. That means that only 11% of the film features dinosaurs, and now this film sucks. Sometimes, when making a film, you must go with the flow and adapt on the fly. Steven Spielberg changed the entire climax of the film just a few weeks before the end of shooting. He did this after seeing early visual effects footage of the T-Rex and realised that more was possible. The original climax saw the raptors being killed by the T-Rex skeleton in the visitor centre. Spielberg thought the audience would hate it, and him and the dinosaur didn't get a starring moment. So he turned the climax into a fight between the dinosaurs, and this time it was completely computer animated, unlike earlier T-Rex footage. And those are 10 cool facts I wanted to share with you. There are many other facts out there. Let me know some of your favourites in the comments and feedback down below. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, subscribe to this channel and follow me everywhere at _Grant Burton. Until next time, keep on watching.